זה חרב פרשים.
איזה
אלוהים.
יפה.
וואו, וואו, וואו.
نسيت واحد بالمي، شنو السالفة؟ لك المي شو نسيت واحد؟ هلا خل بأفار.
Recently, chilling scenes have unfolded along the Euphrates River as water levels drop to unprecedented lows, revealing ancient cities and massive statues buried beneath the parched riverbed. Sandstorms rage across the desert, cracked banks widen, and riverside villages descend into chaos as this ancient lifeline vanishes. Local witnesses whisper, "The river is drying up just as the Bible prophesied." Revelation 16:12 warns of the Euphrates drying for the end times armies to cross. They've never seen the Euphrates this terrifying. So what's really happening to the Euphrates River? Just drought or prophecy coming true? Before we uncover the full story, take a moment to like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and explore this mystery together. Recent drone footage has revealed a dramatic and unexpected development along one of the world's most historic rivers. Reports indicate that Syria's transitional authorities have now taken full control of the Euphrates Dam, a move that could reshape the delicate balance of water politics across the region. For decades, the Euphrates has been more than just a river. It is a lifeline shared by several nations. Whoever controls its dams and flow holds enormous influence over agriculture, electricity, and survival for millions of people downstream. Now that control has shifted, and both local communities and international observers are watching closely. Now in several areas, the river that once ran deep appears fractured and exposed. Kilometers of riverbed stretch across the landscape, broken into massive plates of hardened earth. The contrast is striking. Below, the ground splits into wide cracks where fertile soil once supported life. What was once rich farmland now looks dry and exhausted. Above ground, people struggle over every remaining drop of water. For many residents living along the Euphrates, the situation creates a strange mix of emotions, hope and anxiety at the same time. Hope that new agreements might stabilize water access, and anxiety that shifting power could make shortages even worse. Meanwhile, our tensions across the Middle East continue to rise after years of what some analysts describe as a fragile, armed peace. In certain areas near the river, farmland has been abandoned entirely, not only because water has become scarce, but because instability and security concerns make it difficult for people to remain. Yet the disappearing water is not the only reason the Euphrates is drawing global attention, because as the river slowly retreats, something unexpected is beginning to appear beneath its surface. At first, many people assumed the shapes appearing in the dried riverbed were nothing unusual, just rocks, broken debris, perhaps fragments of soil that had always been there. But when the dust settled and drone cameras began flying over the exposed sections of the Euphrates, the picture quickly changed. From above, when faint outlines started to emerge beneath the cracked surface of the riverbed. Straight lines, sharp angles, rectangular shapes arranged in patterns that did not belong to nature. What first looked like random formations soon revealed something far more remarkable, the remains of an ancient settlement. Stone foundations stretched across the exposed riverbed. Sections of collapsed walls traced what once looked like narrow streets. Long rectangular spaces hinted at buildings that may have once served as storage halls or gathering places. When archaeologists analyzed the aerial footage, they realized these were not scattered ruins. They were part of a city. Some researchers estimate the settlement could be 3,000 to 3,400 years old, dating back to the height of early Mesopotamian civilizations. Thick stone walls suggest defensive structures. Smaller foundations appear to be homes where families once lived. Larger open spaces may have been markets where traders gathered along the river. For centuries, the entire settlement remained buried beneath layers of water and mud. Now, as the Euphrates slowly retreats, the city is beginning to surface again. Some historians believe it could be connected to the Mitanni Kingdom, a powerful but mysterious civilization that once ruled large parts of northern Mesopotamia. Others suggest it may belong to the Assyrian period, when cities along the Euphrates controlled trade routes that linked distant regions of the ancient world. But the ruins of the city were only the beginning. As researchers continued scanning the riverbed, something else appeared. Stones that still speak. In other parts of the exposed riverbed, workers clearing mud began discovering an unusual formation rising from the hardened mud. At first it looked like nothing more than a large mound of sediment, shaped by years of water pressure and shifting currents. But as the surrounding soil was carefully cleared away, the outline of something far more unexpected began to appear. A massive stone figure. Unlike the broken fragments of walls and pottery discovered nearby, this object stood upright, partially buried as if it had been standing there long before the river ever covered it. As more of the surrounding mud was removed, the figure's shape became clearer. Broad shoulders, a long stone torso, arms carved close to the body. But what immediately captured the attention of the researchers was not the figure itself. It was what the statue appeared to be holding. Clutched against its chest was a large stone slab, a flat tablet carved with rows of ancient symbols. The markings were unmistakable, wedge-shaped characters pressed into the surface in neat lines, the distinctive pattern of cuneiform writing used by early civilizations of Mesopotamia. Some of the symbols were faint, worn down by centuries beneath water and sediment, but others remained surprisingly clear. These kinds of inscriptions once recorded laws, trade agreements, and religious texts thousands of years ago in the cities of Sumer, Akkad, and Assyria. Yet what puzzled researchers was the way this tablet was positioned. Instead of being buried in a building or scattered among ruins, it had appeared to be deliberately held by the statue itself, as if the figure had been designed to guard or present the message carved into the stone. Even more unusual was the style of the sculpture. Most statues discovered from known Mesopotamian cultures follow recognizable artistic patterns. Rigid posture, elaborate clothing carvings, and symbolic decorations. This figure looked different. Its surface was smoother, the proportions slightly unfamiliar, and the posture more natural than the formal style typically seen in ancient Assyrian or Babylonian statues. That difference has sparked intense curiosity among historians. Some believe the statue may belong to a lesser-known culture that once lived along the Euphrates before larger empires dominated the region. For many observers, the wood discovery has also stirred curiosity about ancient biblical references connected to the region. One verse that often appears in discussions about ancient figures is found in Genesis. There were giants in the earth in those days, in Genesis 6:4. The verse has been interpreted in many different ways throughout history, and scholars emphasize that no direct evidence connects this statue to that passage. Still, the scale and unusual form of the structure naturally invites speculation. At this stage, the statue raises more questions than answers. It stands as another reminder that the Euphrates River has flowed over thousands of years of human history. It is revealing messages from civilizations that vanished thousands of years ago. Stay with us because the next discovery uncovered in the Euphrates mud may be even more shocking. See the remains of ancient trade. Further downstream, another discovery began to surface. Wood. At first, the fragments seemed insignificant, dark shapes embedded in hardened mud. But as the mud was cleared away, the shapes began to reveal curved edges and structural beams. They were pieces of ancient wooden boats. In some locations, entire sections of hulls appear preserved beneath the sediment. Nearby, scattered objects have been found alongside them. Broken pottery, metal tools, fragments of bronze implements. Together, they tell the story of a river that was once far more than a natural waterway. The Euphrates was a highway of commerce. Thousands of years ago, merchants traveled these waters carrying goods between cities. Grain, pottery, metals, fabrics, and spices. Boats moved slowly along the current, connecting distant settlements across Mesopotamia. What we are seeing now may be the remains of that ancient trade network. Ships that sank, cargo that was lost, tools dropped by people who never imagined their world would one day disappear beneath water and time. Now the river that once carried them has revealed them again. Structures no one expected. Perhaps the most puzzling discoveries are the structures that do not yet have clear explanations. Drone footage captured long, linear shapes running across sections of the dried riverbed. They appear to be stone walls or barriers, stretching for dozens of meters beneath the mud. Nearby, several large square foundations have also been identified. Their size suggests they were important buildings, possibly administrative centers, storage facilities, or defensive towers. But even more intriguing are the dark openings visible in a few locations. Some images suggest the presence of underground chambers or partially buried rooms. These could be anything: ancient storage vaults, temple foundations, or even buried infrastructure connected to the lost city nearby. At this stage, researchers simply do not know. Excavating these areas fully could take years, and every new discovery raises even more questions. A river that reveals the past. For archaeologists, the shrinking Euphrates is an unexpected window into the ancient world. Every meter of water that disappears exposes more of what was hidden beneath. Cities, tools, inscriptions, fragments of everyday life from thousands of years ago. But for others watching these events unfold, the discoveries are stirring a different kind of curiosity. Because the drying of this river is not just a geological event, it is something that appears in ancient texts. Long before modern dams, climate reports, or satellite images existed, a passage described a moment when this river would lose its water. And that detail has captured the attention of many people around the world. Because in the Bible, the drying of the Euphrates was mentioned long ago. But before many people jump to prophecy, scientists say there may be a much more immediate explanation behind what is happening to the Euphrates. While the discoveries beneath the river have captured global attention, researchers studying the Euphrates warn that the real story may be far more alarming. Because the river is not simply revealing ancient history, it is losing its water at an unprecedented rate. According to multiple environmental studies, the Euphrates has been shrinking steadily for decades. Satellite observations and hydrological data show that water levels in parts of the river system have dropped dramatically compared to what they were just a few generations ago. Some reports suggest that the river's flow has declined by more than 40% over the past several decades. To scientists, this is not a mystery. It is the result of several powerful forces acting together. One of the most significant factors lies hundreds of kilometers upstream in Turkey, where the massive Ataturk Dam stands across the Euphrates. Built as part of a large regional development project, the dam controls enormous amounts of the river's flow. Water that once moved naturally downstream into Syria and Iraq is now heavily regulated. Reservoirs store it, irrigation systems redirect it, and the amount that eventually reaches the lower sections of the river has been reduced. But the dam is only part of the story. Across the Middle East, rising temperatures and prolonged droughts are placing additional pressure on water systems that were already fragile. Climate scientists have observed that rainfall patterns in the region are shifting. Hotter summers increase evaporation, soil dries faster, rivers and lakes lose water more quickly than they can replenish. Over time, these changes accelerate desertification, slowly transforming once fertile land into dry, cracked terrain. For the Euphrates, this combination of dam control, drought, and climate pressure creates a dangerous trend. Hydrologists studying the river warn that if the current pattern continues, some sections of the Euphrates could become seasonally dry within the next decade. In other words, what people are witnessing now may not be a temporary drop. It could be the beginning of a long-term transformation. For scientists, the concern is environmental. A shrinking river threatens agriculture, drinking water, ecosystems, and regional stability. But outside the scientific community, another interpretation is quietly gaining attention. Because for many people watching these changes unfold, the drying of the Euphrates does not just look like a climate crisis. It looks like something that was written about long ago. And this is where the conversation begins to shift. Because long before satellites, dams, or climate reports existed, one ancient text described a moment when the Euphrates would lose its water. For many people watching the river shrink, the scientific explanation answers part of the question. But not all of it. Because thousands of years ago, a passage appeared in one of the most studied books in human history. In the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse 12, a line describes a moment that has captured the attention of many believers today. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. For centuries, scholars debated what this verse could mean. Some believed it was symbolic. Others thought it referred to events that had already happened in ancient times. But now, as images of the shrinking Euphrates spread across the internet, the verse is being discussed again, because the detail is striking. Where the prophecy does not simply mention a river, it names the Euphrates specifically, and it describes a moment when its water dries up. According to some Christian theologians, this event is connected to a sequence of events described in Revelation, leading up to what many call Armageddon, a final conflict involving the nations of the world. Some pastors in the United States, including well-known preacher John Hagee, have spoken about the possibility that the Euphrates could act as a natural barrier in biblical prophecy. For much of history, the river has served as a dividing line between major civilizations and regions. If that barrier disappears, it could symbolically open a path between East and West, and that idea becomes even more interesting when viewed alongside recent events in the region. In the past decade, while the lands surrounding the Euphrates have become some of the most unstable areas in the world, the Syrian civil war reshaped entire regions of the river valley. Military forces from multiple nations have operated nearby. New alliances and shifting power structures across the Middle East continue to draw global attention. For believers who follow biblical prophecy, these developments are difficult to ignore. A river mentioned in Scripture is shrinking. The region around it is filled with tension. And ancient words describing a dried river are suddenly being quoted again across sermons, podcasts, and social media. Of course, many scholars caution against jumping to conclusions. History has seen many moments when people believe prophecy was unfolding, yet the question remains one that continues to spread across conversations around the world. Is what we are seeing simply another chapter in the long environmental story of the Euphrates? Or could it be something that was written about thousands of years ago, now beginning to take shape in the modern world? The current Middle East conflict, post-2025 armed peace control of the Euphrates Dam by the Syrian government, Turkey-Syria-Iraq tensions, could exacerbate the Euphrates water crisis due to dam disruptions and the weaponization of the river's flow, directly affecting 20 to 30 million people who depend on the river for drinking water, irrigation, and electricity. The Syrian conflict, SDF versus government, and Turkish operations against the PKK in Iraq/Syria disrupt dam operations, reducing Euphrates flow into Iraq by 30 to 50%, with increasing pollution and crop failures. People in northern Syria and southern Iraq face water and electricity shortages, mass displacement, and the risk of a humanitarian crisis if the conflict escalates. Here are 3 possible scenarios for this river and its people if this situation continues. Scenario 1. Escalation of conflict. If the Syrian conflict flares up again, SDF Turkey, the Euphrates Dam is destroyed, or its water supply is cut off as a weapon, causing a 70% reduction in flow, resulting in total crop failure, power shortages in northern Syria, and 5 to 10 million Iraqi-Syrian refugees. Turkey increases upstream damming. Iraq accuses it of water warfare, leading to border conflict. Scenario 2. Relative stability. Armed peace is maintained. The Turkish-Iraq-Syrian water agreement progresses, as per negotiations, in 2026, so flow stabilizes at 60 to 70% of normal. Irrigation and electricity are improved. Migration is reduced, but local droughts due to climate change persist. Local communities gradually recover agriculture with international support. Scenario 3. Regional cooperation. The Syrian government is cooperating with Turkey to share dam data, the trilateral Euphrates-Tigris agreement, increasing water flow by 80%, restoring ecosystems and agriculture, and reducing conflict tensions. People are benefiting from stable electricity and reduced poverty in riverine areas, but investment in climate change mitigation infrastructure is needed. Recent reports suggest that the Euphrates is still shrinking. Satellite images taken over the past few years show that more sections of the river are becoming shallow, and in some places the water has retreated far enough to expose long stretches of cracked earth. Each time the water level drops, something new appears. Fresh sections of the riverbed emerge. Fragments of ancient walls push through the mud. Stone blocks, pottery shards, and forgotten structures begin to surface where currents once flowed. Archaeologists believe there may still be countless remains of ancient civilizations hidden beneath the sediment, entire settlements that disappeared beneath floods or were buried by centuries of shifting soil. If the river continues to withdraw, the world could witness discoveries that have remained hidden for thousands of years. But the story unfolding around the Euphrates is not just archaeological, it is also geopolitical. Because the lands surrounding the river have become one of the most unstable regions on Earth. In recent years, the Middle East has experienced a series of escalating tensions. The war in Syria reshaped large parts of the Euphrates Valley, drawing in multiple foreign powers and leaving entire cities destroyed. Conflict between Israel and militant groups in Gaza and Lebanon has increased regional instability, raising fears that neighboring countries could be pulled into wider confrontation. Meanwhile, the long-running rivalry between Iran and several Gulf states continues to influence military alliances and strategic planning across the region. Military bases, shifting alliances, and new defense agreements have placed several powerful nations within reach of the same territory that surrounds the Euphrates. For many observers, this combination feels unusual. A river described in ancient texts is drying. Hidden ruins are emerging from beneath its bed, and the nations surrounding it are experiencing increasing political and military tension. Individually, each of these events can be explained. Rivers dry because of climate patterns and water management. Ruins appear because erosion and changing landscapes reveal the past. Conflicts occur because of politics, history, and power struggles. But when all of these things happen at the same time, in the same place, people naturally begin asking deeper questions. Could this simply be a rare convergence of environmental change and regional instability? Or is the Euphrates becoming the stage where multiple layers of history, ancient, modern, and prophetic, are colliding at once? For now, no one can say for certain. But one thing is clear. The river that helped build the earliest civilizations is changing faster than anyone expected. And every meter of water that disappears reveals not only buried cities, but also a growing sense that the world may be entering a moment of transformation. As attention grows around the strange discoveries and unusual events connected to the Euphrates River, many observers have started to notice something else. Similar disturbances seem to be appearing in different parts of the world. What is happening near the Euphrates may look dramatic, but it does not seem to be happening alone. In recent years, earthquakes have been reported more often in several regions. Parts of Asia, the Middle East, and major fault zones have experienced repeated tremors. Some were small and barely noticed, while others damaged homes, roads, and entire neighborhoods. Each earthquake serves as a reminder of something people often forget. The ground beneath us is not as stable as it seems. At the same time, weather patterns have begun to behave in unusual ways. In some regions, powerful storms bring heavy rain, strong winds, and sudden flooding. Entire towns can be overwhelmed in just a few hours. Yet in other parts of the world, the opposite problem is growing worse. Long droughts are drying out farmland. Rivers shrink, lakes slowly disappear. Water supplies drop to dangerous levels. Meteorologists have also noticed stronger swings in temperature and atmospheric pressure, conditions that can make seasonal storms more intense and harder to predict. Another pattern has caught the attention of researchers. Flooding and drought are now happening at the same time in different parts of the planet. While some cities struggle to control rising waters, other regions are watching their reservoirs and rivers fade away. These extreme contrasts show how complex and unstable the Earth's climate system can become. Beyond environmental concerns, tensions between nations have also increased. Political conflicts, military standoffs, and regional wars continue to appear in different parts of the world. These situations create uncertainty, forcing governments and populations to watch closely as events unfold. For many people observing all of this together, the pattern feels difficult to ignore. Environmental upheaval, natural disasters, rising conflict between nations. Some believe this combination resembles descriptions found in certain biblical passages that speak about times of turmoil before major turning points in history. Several verses in the New Testament describe earthquakes, disasters, and conflicts appearing together during the same period. For believers, these passages have long been seen as signs that humanity may be moving toward a significant moment. But not everyone sees the situation this way. Many scientists emphasize that the Earth has always experienced cycles of geological activity and climate change. From their perspective, earthquakes, storms, droughts, and floods are natural processes that have occurred throughout the planet's long history. The discussion between these two viewpoints continues around the world. Yet one fact remains clear. One, the discoveries along the Euphrates River, combined with the events unfolding across the planet, have captured global attention. For many people, the question remains open. Are these events simply natural patterns unfolding across time? Or are they signs pointing towards something larger that humanity has yet to fully understand? The discoveries along the Euphrates River have raised many questions that researchers, historians, and observers around the world are still trying to understand. From violent eruptions in the water, to the foundations of ancient cities emerging from the riverbed, to mysterious statues, spheres, hidden tunnels, and strange sightings in the sky, each event adds another layer to an already complex mystery. Some people see these developments as reminders of how much history still lies buried beneath the surface of our world. Others view them through the lens of ancient scripture, wondering whether the changes taking place today echo warnings recorded thousands of years ago. At the same time, scientists continue to study the region carefully, searching for geological and historical explanations behind each discovery. In many cases, the truth may lie somewhere between natural processes and the remarkable history that has unfolded along this river for thousands of years. What is certain is that the Euphrates River is revealing secrets that have remained hidden for centuries, and the world is watching closely as each new discovery emerges. So what do you think? Is the drying of the Euphrates just another environmental crisis unfolding in a fragile region? Or could it be a sign connected to something much larger in human history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to continue exploring stories where history, mystery, and prophecy intersect, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for the next episode. Thank you for watching and exploring these mysteries with us.
For centuries, the Euphrates River has been at the heart of biblical prophecy, its waters holding secrets of the past and warnings for the future. But now, during a recent environmental survey, an AI-powered drone was deployed beneath a newly exposed section of riverbed. What it recorded was not just erosion, but shocking findings that may confirm one of the most chilling prophecies in the Book of Revelation. Whether this is coincidence, archaeology, or something more, the timing has raised questions few expected to ask. Before we begin, please click that like button and subscribe so more people can uncover the truth behind this chilling revelation. Thank you so much. As the mighty Euphrates River continues to dry up, eerie and unexplainable reports have emerged from the region, strange, yet otherworldly sounds echoing from beneath the ground. These sounds, recorded and shared on social media, have captivated and unsettled audiences worldwide. In various videos, locals stand near the dry riverbed, straining to capture the unsettling noises on their devices. The sounds range from deep, guttural growls to piercing, sorrowful wails, with some even describing them as eerie whispers, as if voices from an unseen realm are trying to communicate with the living. What could be the source of these chilling noises? Theories abound. Many believers turn to biblical prophecies, recalling that the Book of Revelation speaks of 4 fallen angels bound at the Euphrates, awaiting their release at the appointed time. Could it be that these spirits, shackled beneath the river for millennia, are now stirring as the water recedes? Are we hearing the echoes of their ancient chains loosening? Some speculate that these sounds could be linked to UFOs or otherworldly beings. Could underground chambers near the river be harboring something beyond human understanding? With increasing global interest in extraterrestrial phenomena, some suggest that the sounds could be linked to hidden alien activity beneath the Earth's surface. Another theory posits that these noises are the groans of the Earth itself, shifting as underground caverns collapse. Given the rapid environmental changes and geological shifts in the region, it's possible that the retreating water has created massive voids beneath the ground, which are now shifting, producing unsettling sounds. A chilling possibility that many believers fear is that these noises are not merely natural or coincidental. Some have compared the eerie reverberations to the trumpet sounds mentioned in various prophetic scriptures, warning of divine judgment. In biblical prophecy, trumpet blasts often signal great events, warnings from heaven that the end times are drawing near. Could these sounds be part of that apocalyptic warning? However, the most compelling theory among believers is that these sounds are evidence of fallen angels awakening beneath the Euphrates. Could it be that these spirits, mentioned in biblical texts, are now stirring as the river recedes, just as prophesied? As researchers continued to explore the exposed riverbed of the drying Euphrates River, they stumbled upon a shocking discovery: an enormous skeletal structure resembling that of a colossal serpent. The sheer size and length of the bones defied all known species, leading to immediate speculation about its origins. Some scientists theorize that it could be the remains of a prehistoric species yet to be identified, while others question whether it belongs to a long-extinct giant serpent from an era long forgotten. One theory suggests that this could be the preserved remains of an ancient species that thrived thousands of years ago when the Euphrates was a much different environment. Nevertheless, another more alarming theory ties this discovery to biblical prophecy. Snakes have long been associated with deception, evil, and chaos, symbolizing the presence of dark forces. The book of Genesis describes the serpent as the instrument of Satan in the Garden of Eden. The book of Revelation warns of the great dragon, Satan himself, who will deceive nations. Could this serpent's remains be a direct sign pointing toward prophetic fulfillment? The drying of the Euphrates has already been linked to the end times by many biblical scholars, and now, with this eerie discovery, some fear that something even more sinister is unfolding before our eyes. Is this a warning from heaven? Why did the skeleton of a giant snake appear in the Euphrates River? The presence of this colossal serpent skeleton raises numerous questions. If this were simply an ancient species, why has no record of such a creature ever been found before? Some biblical scholars suggest that this may not be a coincidence. Throughout the Bible, the Euphrates River has long been associated with divine intervention and judgment, and serpents have played a crucial role in representing deception, sin, divine punishment, and even spiritual warfare. From the Garden of Eden to the apocalyptic visions in Revelation, snakes have been tied to the forces of evil and chaos. The discovery of a giant serpent skeleton in the Euphrates River may hold deeper symbolic significance, perhaps even pointing to a sign from God, one that demands our attention. Now, let's move on to another discovery on the other side of the Euphrates River, to see how this river connects to the Bible. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Your thoughts matter, so feel free to share your opinions in the comments. The cavity narrowed, then widened again. The walls, once jagged and irregular, began to change. The drone's stabilizers corrected automatically as its sensors detected flatter surfaces ahead. The AI enhanced contrast, tracing edges in pale overlay lines. Straight edges, not curves, not fractures, lines that held their direction. The AI began cross-referencing surface patterns with known inscriptions. No confirmed match. The markings above the outline repeated 4 times, evenly spaced, carved with consistent depth. No mechanical fault detected. The drone hovered still. low-frequency sensors registered a faint oscillation. 3 subtle pulses, followed by silence. It could have been shifting sediment. It could have been environmental interference. However, not all scholars believe this discovery is merely a scientific anomaly. Some religious historians and theologians see this as a sign, perhaps a manifestation of ancient biblical warnings. Could this be a remnant of the great creatures mentioned in ancient texts? Or does it point to something even more unsettling, a connection to the forces of darkness? The Bible presents a powerful narrative about fallen angels, celestial beings who once served God but rebelled and were cast out of heaven. These fallen angels now roam the earth, influencing humanity, and some are even imprisoned in supernatural locations, awaiting divine judgment. One of the most chilling biblical prophecies about these fallen beings is found in the book of Revelation, where it speaks of 4 angels bound at the Euphrates River, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, "Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. Revelation 9:14-15, KJV. This passage suggests that specific fallen angels have been kept in chains at the Euphrates River for a predetermined moment in history, when they will be released to unleash destruction upon the world. The idea of supernatural entities being bound and awaiting a time of judgment appears in multiple places in Scripture. Jude 1:6 also speaks of fallen angels kept in darkness. "And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day." These references lead many to believe that the strange sounds heard from the Euphrates could be the cries of these imprisoned beings, stirring as the river recedes. Could it be that the fallen angels bound beneath the riverbed are awakening, their chains loosening as prophecy unfolds? Interestingly, the Euphrates River is also linked to another significant prophecy in Revelation, the rise of the kings of the East. Revelation 16:12 states, "And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the East might be prepared." Revelation 16:12, KJ5. This passage is often interpreted as a prophecy that, in the last days, powerful forces from the east will rise and march toward a climactic battle. The drying of the Euphrates is not just a natural event, it is part of a divine plan allowing these armies to advance. Until this point, every explanation still had room to remain grounded. Buried architecture was not impossible along the Euphrates River. Entire settlements have vanished beneath shifting water lines throughout history. Flood, drought, collapse. These cycles have shaped the region once known as Mesopotamia for thousands of years. But a buried wall is one thing. A sealed chamber is another. The drone received new instructions. Approach the recess directly. Its rotors adjusted carefully, minimizing turbulence inside the narrow shaft. Dust and fine sediment settled slowly as the machine advanced. The camera feed sharpened automatically, compensating for low light. The recess filled the screen. Up close, the surface revealed more detail. The material was stone, not natural river rock, but shaped blocks fitted together with unnerving precision. The seams were tight. No obvious mortar, no collapse fractures. And the markings above the sealed section were clearer now. 4 identical symbols, positioned evenly across the upper span. They were not decorative flourishes. They did not flow like art. Each symbol appeared deliberate, repeated, measured, intentional. Their lines were shallow but controlled, carved with consistent depth. The AI isolated the shapes and attempted comparative analysis. No direct match. The system scanned databases of cuneiform, early Semitic inscriptions, regional tribal markers. It returned possibilities, partial similarities, but nothing definitive. Unclassified, the interface displayed. The drone angled slightly to the right, allowing its side-mounted scanner to sweep along the edges of the recess. The thermal imaging display shifted from grayscale to a faint blue-red gradient. Behind the stone barrier, the temperature difference was subtle, but real. There was space beyond it, a hollow cavity extending deeper than first mapped. Not a crack, not a fracture. A contained interior volume. One operator leaned forward. "Zoom the lower seam." The drone complied, lowering slowly toward the base of the sealed section. There, partially buried beneath hardened sediment, a faint horizontal indentation appeared, too straight to be erosion. It resembled the outline of a doorway, not open, not broken, closed, and not recently. The sediment packed around the lower edges suggested long-term burial. Layers had accumulated over decades, possibly centuries. Whatever stood behind that stone had not been exposed by modern water decline alone. It had been sealed first, then hidden. The low-frequency sensor activated again. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. The rhythm remained faint but detectable. Engineers debated whether it could be the drone's own feedback loop. A secondary system was activated to cross-check vibration sources. The pattern persisted. Not louder, not stronger, just steady. The drone extended a microprobe, an articulated sensor arm normally used to test structural stability. The tip hovered inches from the stone surface, careful not to make direct impact. A density scan ran across the sealed blocks. Results indicated uniform thickness. Too uniform. Natural sediment compaction produces variation. This surface showed measured consistency, as though cut or selected with purpose. The live 3D rendering on screen now displayed the full chamber outline based on sonar mapping. Rectangular base, slightly curved ceiling, depth extending several meters back. No secondary exits detected. No visible collapse from above. A contained room. Deliberately enclosed. Silence filled the monitoring tent. Someone finally spoke. Why seal something this deep? No one answered. The Euphrates has witnessed countless civilizations, Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians. Temples were built. Vaults were constructed. Sacred objects were hidden during invasions. It would not be impossible for an ancient structure to lie beneath the riverbed. And yet, this location was unusual. It was not near known temple sites. It was not aligned with mapped ruins. It existed beneath what would have once been active river flow. Which raised another question. Was this structure built before the river shifted? Or was the river diverted over it? The drone's camera tilted upward toward the ceiling of the shaft. There, faint reinforcement lines appeared in the sediment layers, suggesting deliberate shaping of the cavity surrounding the sealed wall. Not just a room, a chamber placed within a protected pocket, as if whoever built it expected pressure, expected weight, expected concealment. The drone hovered motionless, its lights casting long shadows across the carved symbols. For a brief moment the signal flickered again. Not full loss, just distortion. Static crawled across the lower right corner of the display, then cleared. No alarms triggered, no system failures reported. But the atmosphere in the tent had changed. This was no longer an erosion survey. It was no longer a routine mapping mission. It was the documentation of something intentionally hidden beneath a river that is only now retreating. One technician quietly archived the feed under a new classification tag, subsurface structure, sealed. Outside, the exposed riverbed lay silent under the fading light. Wind moved across cracked earth where water once flowed freely. The Euphrates had covered this chamber for generations. Now the water was falling, and for the first time in perhaps centuries, something sealed behind shaped stone was illuminated again. The question was no longer whether the structure existed. The question was why it had been closed so completely, and what waited behind it. By now, the footage had been reviewed dozens of times. Engineers slowed it frame by frame. Analysts compared surface textures. Archaeologists were consulted quietly, without public statement. The sealed chamber beneath the Euphrates River was no longer just an environmental irregularity. It was becoming a historical question. But outside the technical discussions, another layer of conversation was beginning to form. The timing. For generations, this river has carried symbolic weight far beyond the geography. It has marked boundaries between empires. It has defined trade routes, conflicts, and migration. In religious tradition, it has also held meaning, not just as water, but as a dividing line between eras. Now the water is receding, not symbolically, physically. Satellite imagery confirms the decline. Long stretches of riverbed are exposed. Tributaries are thinner. Shorelines are shifting in ways not seen in modern records. Climate cycles and infrastructure decisions offer rational explanations, and yet the visual impact is undeniable. A river long associated with permanence is shrinking, and as it shrinks, something sealed beneath it appears. The drone footage was not released publicly at first. It circulated among researchers, then quietly reached independent analysts. Speculation followed, not because of what was proven, but because of what aligned. A river historically linked with turning points. A modern technological eye descending where human access was impossible. A chamber that appears intentionally closed, and all of it happening during a period when global uncertainty already feels heightened. No one in the research team made prophetic claims. No official statement suggested supernatural interpretation. The working language remained measured. Subsurface anomaly, possible man-made structure, further excavation required. But outside official language, questions multiplied. Why here? Why sealed? Why only visible now? Throughout history, rivers have hidden more than sediment. They have buried cities, temples, vaults, and warnings. When water levels shift, forgotten chapters resurface. Archaeology often begins not with intention, but with exposure. Still, there is something unsettling about a barrier that was not broken by collapse, but preserved by concealment. If ancient builders sealed a chamber beneath this river, they did so knowing water would cover it. They relied on time and current to protect it. The structure was not meant to be easily found. And yet, it was not destroyed. It endured. Now, as the Euphrates retreats and artificial intelligence peers into spaces once unreachable, a boundary feels thinner, not between nations but between past and present. Technology is advancing faster than ever. Environmental change is accelerating. Hidden places are becoming visible. Archives are being digitized. Ruins are being mapped from space. Humanity has never had clearer sight into buried history, but greater visibility does not always bring clarity. Sometimes it raises deeper questions. The chamber remains sealed. No entry attempt has been made. No excavation tools have touched the surface. For now, observation is all that exists, and yet, the symbolism is difficult to ignore. A river long associated with thresholds is falling. A hidden structure is emerging, and modern eyes are watching closely. Perhaps it is nothing more than an undiscovered relic of a forgotten civilization. or perhaps it is a reminder that history does not disappear. It waits. And when the conditions shift, when water lowers, when light reaches deeper, when the moment is right, what was covered begins to show itself again. The question now is not whether the chamber exists. It is what humanity will choose to do next. By the 5th day, the site had grown quieter. Not abandoned, but controlled. Access to the immediate area along the exposed stretch of the Euphrates River was limited under the explanation of structural instability. Equipment tents were repositioned farther from the sinkhole. Data transfers were routed through secured channels. Officially, the investigation remained geological. Unofficially, it had become something else, and the drone was sent down once more. This time, not to discover, but to confirm. Its descent was slower, steadier, every sensor active, every signal logged in duplicate. The sealed stone recess came into view again, unchanged. The carved markings remained faint but precise. The sediment at the base had not shifted, but the low-frequency reading returned. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. The waveform appeared again on screen, subtle, rhythmic, consistent. Engineers cross-checked for mechanical interference. Rotor speeds were altered. The drone powered down non-essential systems. The pattern persisted. It was not loud enough to suggest machinery, not strong enough to indicate collapse. But it was present. Some suggested distant seismic activity. Others proposed underground water movement adjusting to the river's decline. All explanations were plausible. Yet none explained the regularity. The drone extended its microprobe again, scanning the sealed surface at closer range than before. Density readings confirmed uniform composition. No cracks, no natural fractures indicating pressure from within. If something existed beyond that barrier, it was contained, and it had remained contained for a very long time. Above ground, the wind moved across dry riverbed. The exposed earth stretched wide beneath a fading sky. It was difficult to imagine that only months earlier, water had flowed steadily above this hidden structure. Now, sunlight reached ground that had not seen it in generations, and beneath that ground, behind shaped stone, was a chamber that had endured water, pressure, and time. No attempt was made to breach it. That decision carried weight. Opening an ancient seal, if it was one, would shift the investigation from observation to intervention. And once intervention begins, history changes. Context is altered. Preservation becomes disturbance. For now, restraint prevailed. But the footage had already circulated beyond the immediate team. Independent researchers debated its authenticity. Online forums speculated about lost civilizations. Religious commentators spoke cautiously about symbolism. Skeptics demanded controlled excavation before conclusions. The chamber remained closed, the pulses continued, and the river continued to fall. Whether the oscillation was natural or structural, whether the chamber was ceremonial, protective, or purely architectural, none of it had yet crossed into certainty. What was certain was this. Something had been deliberately placed beneath the Euphrates. Something had been sealed. Something had remained hidden through centuries of flood and empire. And only when the water withdrew and technology descended did it become visible again. There are moments in history when discovery feels accidental, and there are moments when it feels timed. No one could say which this was. The drone rose slowly back toward the surface, its lights fading into shadow as it ascended. The live feed transitioned from carved stone to sediment, from darkness to dim daylight filtering down the shaft. Above, the sky over the Euphrates was clear. The riverbed lay open, and somewhere beneath it, behind silent stone, a chamber waited, untouched, unbroken, and still unanswered. The signal had been recorded. The structure had been confirmed. Now, only one question remained. Was it simply history resurfacing, or a boundary that humanity was never meant to cross? As the riverbed kept drying, local villagers found something buried under mud and stone along the Euphrates River. It was a sword. Old, corroded, heavy with rust. Layers of hardened silt clung to its blade. When they pulled it free, they realized something strange. It was far larger than most ancient weapons found in the region. The blade was wide. The handle was long. It felt made for someone much bigger than an ordinary soldier. Archaeologists were called in. Historians examined the shape and balance, but the design did not clearly match known sword styles from nearby kingdoms. It did not fit cleanly into familiar categories. And that is when the whispers began. Some locals asked a bold question. Could this be the legendary sword of Goliath? As news of the discovery spread, biblical scholars took interest. The sword's size, its weight, its unexpected location, all of it stirred the imagination. If real, could it be tied to one of the most famous battles in the Bible, the duel between David and Goliath? In books of Samuel, 1 Samuel 17:45-51, Goliath is described as a giant warrior from the Philistines. He stood tall above other men and terrified the army of Israel. Day after day, he challenged them to send one man to fight him. No one stepped forward. Until David. David was young, not a trained soldier. He carried no sword, no armor, only a sling and 5 smooth stones. He declared that he came in the name of the Lord. When Goliath advanced, David ran toward him and released a stone. It struck Goliath in the forehead. The giant fell. But David did not stop there. He took Goliath's own massive sword and used it to end the battle, sealing a victory no one expected. So, how could a sword like that end up in the Euphrates, far from the land of Israel? Several theories have emerged. One idea is simple: war. The Euphrates was a key river in the ancient world. Armies crossed it. Empires fought over it. The sword could have been taken as war treasure, passed from one kingdom to another, and eventually lost during battle, sinking into mud where it remained for centuries. Another theory points to exile. When Babylon conquered Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, many sacred objects were taken east. Some believe Goliath's sword may have been carried away during that time, then lost, buried, or forgotten near the river. Others suggest something more deliberate, that priests or warriors hid the sword to protect it from enemies. Over time, floods and shifting land could have covered it, sealing it beneath the river until now. There is the question of Goliath himself. He was not described as an ordinary man. In 1 Samuel 17:4, his height is recorded as extraordinary, over 9 feet in some translations. His size and strength have led some to connect him to the mysterious Nephilim mentioned in Book of Genesis 6:4. That passage speaks of the Nephilim as mighty figures from ancient times, heroes of old, men of renown. It also mentions sons of God, who had children with human women. For centuries, people have debated what this means. Some believe these sons of God were fallen angels. Others see it as symbolic language. In many interpretations, the Nephilim were giants, strong, powerful, different from ordinary humans. They were not just warriors. They were linked to corruption and violence. Some scholars believe their presence is one reason the Great Flood was sent, to cleanse the earth and begin again. If Goliath was connected to that ancient line, then his sword would not be just a weapon. It would be a relic from a world that once stood between legend and history. For now, the sword remains under study. No final claims have been made. Science moves slowly. Evidence must speak clearly. But one thing is certain. As the Euphrates dries and buried objects rise from the mud, Questions from the ancient world are rising with them. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you see alignment with Scripture? Or do you interpret these events differently? And subscribe to the channel as we continue examining these developments carefully and thoughtfully. A shocking transformation is happening in the Euphrates River. Its waters are drying up, revealing ancient secrets, just as the Bible foretold.
Actually fascinating about it is that the cloth that the statue is actually wearing is not made out of the same stone material, whereas the cloth is actual cloth that the statue...
At the same time, rivers worldwide are reportedly turning red. Sudden floods without storms, riverbanks collapsing in silence, animals vanishing before major shifts, and beneath the waters, discoveries no one expected to see. Scripture ties the drying of the Euphrates and water turning to blood to the end times and the release of the fallen angels. Could this be a natural event or a sign of divine judgment? Before we continue, please click the like and subscribe button so more people can uncover the truth behind these mysterious events. Strange events have been unfolding across the world. Numerous rivers have mysteriously turned red, leaving scientists and religious scholars searching for answers. Among them are the Rhythmic River in Peru, rivers in Lima, and most shockingly, the Euphrates River. The Euphrates River, one of the most historically and biblically significant bodies of water, has long been associated with end-time prophecies. The sudden change in its water color has sparked concern among believers who see this as a fulfillment of biblical warnings. But why is this happening? So, why is the river water turning red? Certain algae, such as Karenia brevis, can cause what is known as a red tide, producing toxins that are harmful to marine life and humans. These harmful algal blooms have been observed in various parts of the world, and while they may explain some cases of water turning red, they do not account for all occurrences, especially those happening in freshwater sources like the Euphrates River. While these scientific explanations provide potential reasoning for the phenomenon, many believe that the timing and specific locations of these events align too closely with biblical prophecy to be dismissed as mere coincidences. The Bible explicitly describes rivers turning red as a divine warning, often as a sign of judgment against those who have turned away from God. One of the most striking references is found in the book of Revelation. The third angel poured out his bowl on the rivers and springs of water, and they became blood. Revelation 16:4, NI 5. This event is eerily similar to the first plague in Egypt, when the Nile River was turned into blood as a direct act of divine intervention. And all the waters of the river were turned to blood. The fish in the Nile died, and the river smelled so bad that the Egyptians could not drink its water. Exodus 7:20-21. In both cases, Egypt and the end times, water sources become undrinkable, symbolizing God's power and warning humanity of impending doom. The question remains, are we now witnessing the fulfillment of this prophecy? The Euphrates River, in particular, holds a unique prophetic significance. The Bible speaks of the Euphrates drying up before the final battle of Armageddon. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. Revelation 16:12, NY 5. With the Euphrates currently experiencing historic droughts and portions of it drying up, some prophecy watchers claim that this, along with the red-colored waters, is clear evidence that biblical warnings are unfolding before our eyes. If the recent reports of red-colored rivers are indeed a fulfillment of the third bowl judgment, then what happens next? According to the book of Revelation, divine wrath will escalate, leading to catastrophic consequences for humanity. These events will not be isolated incidents, but part of a chain reaction, each judgment more severe than the last. Before anyone sees movement, they hear it, a deep, low rumble, distant at first. It does not come from the sky, it comes from ahead, from the channel itself. The sound grows louder. Then the water appears. It races through the dry path that had stood empty only hours before. Within minutes, the cracked riverbed vanishes beneath violent, swirling current. Mud disappears, sandbars dissolve. The river surges forward with force. This does not feel like ordinary flooding. The ground nearby is dry. There has been no heavy rain upstream, no overnight storm strong enough to explain this power. The surge is sharp, direct, almost controlled. It moves as if something has been released, not poured down from above but pushed out from below. Later, experts offer explanations. Underground pressure systems, trapped aquifers breaking through weak rock, hidden channels shifting beneath the surface. Water can collect under layers of stone for years. Pressure can build where no one sees it. When the structure changes, through erosion or cracks, the release can come fast and hard. The science makes sense, but what unsettles people is not just how it happened. It is the order. First, the river turned blood. Then, without any sign in the sky, it overwhelmed with force. An ancient text once described a moment like this: "On that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth." Genesis 7:11. In that account, the release did not begin with rain. It began from below. The deep opened before the clouds formed. What was hidden moved first. Whether someone reads that verse as history, symbol, or prophecy, the pattern is clear. Pressure builds in silence. Containment holds, until it does not. The Euphrates has always been more than a stream of water. It has marked the edge of empires. It has fed cities. It stands in prophetic language as a boundary of meaning. So, when a river like this first withdraws, then surges back without visible cause, people pause. Not in panic, in reflection. Because when water disappears and then erupts, the question is not whether underground systems exist, they do. The deeper question is about limits. How long had the pressure been building? What shifted beneath the surface? And if one layer gave way, what other hidden layers are under strain right now? Eventually, the surge slows. The water settles. The river returns to something that looks normal. But no one forgets the sequence. The river pulled back, and then it rushed forward. And anyone watching closely understood that something beneath the surface had shifted long before the surge became visible. Before we go further, like this video and share your thoughts below. Could this be a warning? The flood is exposing more than mud and stone. As the water pulls back again and parts of the riverbank shift, something new is now visible along a stretch of the Euphrates that used to stay underwater. It is not a cave torn open by a violent collapse. It is a narrow, dark opening, clean, sharp, almost precise, revealed where the soil has thinned and fallen away. An exploration team moves in carefully. They expect common rock walls, maybe broken pottery, maybe small fragments of history washed loose by the surge. Instead, they find something that changes the mood instantly. At the center of the chamber, resting on a flat stone slab, lies a massive ring. It is far too large for any normal human hand. 2 grown adults are needed to lift it. It is not shaped like jewelry. It does not look like part of a machine. It is thick, perfectly round, heavy, and solid. The weight suggests dense metal, not something hollow or decorative. What stands out even more is its condition. Despite clear signs of age and long exposure to moisture, there is almost no deep rust. No heavy corrosion, no crumbling edges. Ancient bronze and iron usually break down over time. This does not. The surface is worn, but intact. And then there is its position. The ring is not buried in mud. It is not tangled in debris carried by floodwater. it is placed. It sits squarely on a leveled stone pedestal, as if set there on purpose. The floor around it is calm and mostly undisturbed. There are no carvings on it, no letters, no symbols, no patterns. The inside is smooth, the outside is plain. It does not match known craftsmanship from Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, or Assyria. Early analysis cannot easily classify the metal within common ancient alloys. The silence of the object, the lack of markings, only deepens the mystery. This region is tied to ancient stories. In Genesis 6, the text speaks of the Nephilim, described as mighty men of old. Some see this as symbolism, others see it as literal history. Interpretations differ widely, but one simple question now stands in the chamber. If this ring was not made for a human hand, then whose hand was it made for? The size does not match ritual jewelry. It is too large to wear, too balanced to be broken architecture, too deliberately placed to be random. It does not clearly resemble a shackle. It does not clearly resemble an ornament. It remains undefined. What makes this discovery powerful is not fantasy. It is timing and location. It appears in a region already heavy with prophetic meaning. It surfaces only after strange water movement and underground pressure shifts. It rests alone, as if it had been waiting for the covering layers to weaken. The flood first forced people to look at what was happening beneath the earth. Now, the ring forces them to look at what may have been buried within history itself. If erosion reveals this object now, why now? Was it hidden on purpose? Was the cavern sealed long ago before rising waters covered it? Or is this simply the result of natural change uncovering what time had buried? One fact is clear. This is no longer just about unusual water behavior. The land is not only shifting, it is revealing. And if this is only the beginning of what lies beneath, stay with us. Because what was found deeper inside the cavern may challenge assumptions even further. Before the ground begins to move, and the animals are already leaving. Along wide sections near the Euphrates River, people are noticing something strange. The riverbanks, once full of life, feel empty. Birds that have nested in the same trees for years are gone. Their usual flight paths have shifted. Herd animals that used to graze close to the water are not coming back to their normal feeding spots. There are no fires, no heavy machines, no dead animals lying in the fields. Just absence. At first, this can be explained away. Animals move with the seasons. They follow food. They adjust to heat and cold. That is normal. But what troubles many locals is the timing. The animals begin to relocate before the ground shows clear signs of sinking. Before the riverbanks start to lower. Before cracks appear in the soil. The silence comes first. Science confirms that animals often sense change before humans do. They can feel shifts in air pressure. They detect tiny vibrations in the earth. They respond to underground gas releases and low, deep sound waves that people cannot hear. Certain species are extremely sensitive to frequencies and movement beneath the surface. History shows this pattern again and again. Before earthquakes, before volcanic eruptions, animals move. What feels sudden to humans has often been building quietly in the natural world. This pattern echoes a well-known biblical line. In Matthew 24:37, Jesus says, "As it was in the days of Noah." The statement is short but powerful. In the Genesis story, the animals enter the ark before the flood begins. The rain does not force them inside. Instinct does. They move before the disaster is visible. Movement comes before destruction. The focus in that story is not panic, it is preparation. The animals do not scatter wildly. They reposition. They shift because something unseen is approaching. Whether someone reads that account as history, symbol, or prophecy, the order is clear. warning does not always come in words. Sometimes creation responds first. Near the river today, there is no official alert, no siren, no public statement. Yet the fields feel different, quieter. The skies hold fewer wings. Traditional grazing land is thinning out. It is not dramatic. It is controlled, subtle, almost gentle.